They sat side by side in church, and Keanu's look at Sandra said everything. That Sunday morning did not feel normal to anyone who stepped inside the small old church at the end of Maple Street. Sunlight fell through tall stained glass windows, painting soft colors across the wooden benches. People whispered greetings, shook hands, and settled into their usual places. But when KeanuReeves walked in quietly, wearing a simple dark jacket and giving a gentle nod to the priest, the whole atmosphere changed. It wasn't because he was famous. It was because there was something heavy in his eyes, something that made everyone feel he was carrying a story too painful to say out loud. And then, only a moment later, Sandra Bullock walked in. Her hair was gently tied back, her steps slow but steady, as if she had been fighting her own storm before stepping through the church doors. She looked around, searching for a calm corner, but then her eyes caught Keanu sitting alone near the middle row. Something inside her paused. She didn't expect him to be there, and he did not expect her either. Yet somehow life brought them to the same bench on the same morning when both of their hearts felt tired. People around them tried not to stare, but they did. Because when Sandra quietly walked over and sat beside Keanu, something powerful filled the space between them. They didn't speak at first. They didn't need to. Keanu looked at her with a softness that felt like a warm hand reaching for someone who had been shivering for too long. Sandra lowered her gaze for a moment, then looked back at him, and in that silent exchange, it seemed as if two old souls were reminding each other that they were not alone. The choir began singing, but the real story was happening on that wooden bench. Keanu noticed the way Sandra held her hands together, almost too tightly, like she was trying to stop them from shaking. He leaned slightly closer and whispered in a gentle voice that only she could hear. His words were simple, but they reached straight into her heart. He said, "You don't have to pretend you're fine with me. I can see when something hurts." Sandra didn't answer at first. Her throat felt tight. She had spent weeks hiding her pain from the world, smiling for interviews, pretending everything was okay. But now, sitting beside someone who understood silence better than anyone, she felt the wall inside her break just a little. "I thought I could handle everything on my own," she whispered back. "But lately, I don't know anymore." Keanu's expression softened even more. He didn't tell her to be strong. He didn't say empty, comforting words. He simply nodded, showing that he understood the kind of quiet battles that never appear on screens or magazines. But then something unexpected happened. A small folded paper slipped from Sandra's bag and dropped onto the floor near their feet. Keanu leaned forward to pick it up, but the moment he opened it to hand it to her, he froze for a second. Sandra froze too. The paper wasn't just a note. It was a letter from someone she had been avoiding for months, someone connected to a truth she never wanted the world to know. And now Keanu had seen the name on it. Their eyes met again, but this time the silence between them was shaking. Sandra whispered, "Please don't ask me about it." Keanu breathed out slowly. "I won't," he said, "but if you ever decide to talk, I'll be here." The choir's voice rose higher, echoing through the church, but neither of them were paying attention anymore. Something had changed. Something deep, something fragile, something that would pull them into a journey neither of them were ready for. And soon, they would discover that the letter wasn't the only secret waiting for them that day. But the moment that truly shocked everyone was still minutes away, when Keanu suddenly stood up in the middle of the service, walked toward the front, and said something that made the entire church fall silent. The moment that stopped the whole church. Everyone remembered the exact second it happened. The choir was still singing softly, the priest was preparing to speak, and people were settling into a quiet peace. Then Keanu suddenly rose from the bench. His movement was gentle, not rushed, but it carried a weight that made every person in the room turn toward him. Even the choir's voices softened as if they sensed something important was about to unfold. Sandra looked up at him, confused, her heartbeat tapping against her ribs. She whispered under her breath, "Keanu, what are you doing?" But he didn't answer. He walked calmly toward the front of the church, his hands slightly trembling in a way that only someone sitting close would notice. Something inside him was breaking open, something he had kept hidden even from himself. People thought he might be giving thanks or asking for guidance or lighting a candle for someone he lost. But when he turned and looked at the whole room, his eyes were filled with something deeper, something raw, and then he spoke in his quiet, steady voice. "I'm sorry," he said softly, "but I can't sit here pretending everything is fine when my heart feels like it is collapsing." A quiet gasp moved through the church. Not because he was famous, but because he spoke like a man who finally reached the end of pretending. The priest stepped closer, ready to support him, but Keanu shook his head gently, showing he needed to say this himself. "I came here today because I didn't know where else to go," he continued. "I've been carrying something that keeps getting heavier, and I thought maybe sitting in silence would help me breathe. But then, someone I never expected to see walked in." Keanu's eyes drifted toward Sandra. She froze, her breath caught. No one else understood what this moment meant, but she felt it like a shock running through her whole body. She whispered, "Please do," but it was too late. Keanu wasn't revealing her secret. He wasn't revealing his. He was revealing something deeper. "Sometimes," he said, "life gives you a person who reminds you that you're still human. Someone who walks in at the right moment, even when you think you don't deserve it." Sandra lowered her gaze, fighting back the sting of tears. She had no idea he felt this much. She didn't know he was struggling this way. She didn't know her simple presence could shake him so deeply. But then came a twist no one expected. From the back of the church, a man entered, walking quickly, scanning the benches like he was searching for someone urgently. People turned to look at him. His clothes were dusty, his hair messy, and his expression filled with panic. He wasn't a regular visitor. He looked like someone who had run for miles. His eyes landed on Sandra, and her entire body went cold. "Sandra," the man called out, breathless, "you need to come with me right now." Keanu stepped down from the front immediately, instinct pushing him toward her. The man approached, holding something tightly in his hand. Sandra shook her head, whispering, "No, not here, please, not now." The man ignored her plea. "It's about the person who wrote that letter," he said. "They disappeared last night." Sandra's heart dropped. Keanu froze beside her. The people in the church looked confused, but the tension wrapped itself around everyone without needing explanation. Keanu stood protectively near Sandra, his voice steady but firm. "Who are you, and what do you want from her?" The man swallowed hard. "I'm her brother," he said, "and we don't have much time. The secret she's been hiding, it's out now." Sandra felt her world trembling. Keanu looked at her, waiting for an explanation she wasn't ready to give. And then her brother whispered something so powerful that it pulled every drop of breath from her chest. "He knows you're here, Sandra." Keanu looked at her with shock, pain, and determination all at once. The peaceful church morning had turned into a storm nobody was ready for. The truth she never wanted him to hear. Everyone in the church felt the shift instantly. What had started as a calm Sunday morning now felt like the air was tightening around them. The man who claimed to be Sandra's brother stood there with desperation in his eyes, and Sandra looked like someone whose past had finally caught up with her in the worst way possible. Keanu stepped closer to her without even thinking. It was instinct, the same instinct that makes a person shield someone they care about before understanding the danger. Keanu whispered, "Sandra, what is going on?" But she couldn't answer. Her breath trembled, her hands were cold, and the fear inside her was climbing higher with every second. Her brother looked around nervously, whispering, "We shouldn't talk here. He's already on his way." Keanu frowned gently. "Who is he?" The brother hesitated, then said in a low voice, "The man who wrote that letter, the one she never replied to. He found out she's been avoiding him, and now he's angry." Sandra squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the rising panic. She had run from this truth for months. She never wanted Keanu to know about it, especially not like this. The letter held a secret tied to a promise she made long before fame, long before the world knew her name. A promise she broke. A promise that was now coming back like a shadow she couldn't outrun. The priest gently approached, asking, "Is everything all right?" Keanu gave a soft nod. "We just need a moment outside." He didn't want to involve the whole church in the trouble, not when everyone came seeking peace. He placed a warm hand on Sandra's back and guided her toward the exit. Her brother followed closely, constantly looking over his shoulder like danger was right behind them. As soon as they stepped outside, the wind hit their faces, but it did nothing to cool the storm between them. Keanu turned to Sandra with eyes full of concern. "Please talk to me," he said. "I can't help if I don't understand." Her voice cracked. "Keanu, I didn't want you to know this part of my life. It's messy, it's painful, and it's my fault." Her brother interrupted. "Sandra, we don't have time. The man you left behind, he knows everything now." Keanu felt his stomach tighten. "Left behind? What does that mean?" Sandra's tears finally slipped down her cheeks. She whispered, "Before I became who I am today, there was someone I made a promise to. Someone who helped me when nobody else did. Someone I cared about in ways I couldn't admit." Keanu felt something inside him shift, but he stayed calm. And you left him. Yes, she whispered, because he wanted something I couldn't give. Her brother added, he wanted her to stay with him forever. He believed they had a future, but Sandra walked away when she got her first big chance. She disappeared from his life without warning, and now he wants answers. Keanu swallowed the lump in his throat. There was something deeper hiding beneath her words, something heavier than a broken promise. Sandra, he said gently, is that man dangerous? Her brother answered instead, he wasn't before, but now he's changed. He's unstable, and he blames Sandra for everything bad that happened to him after she left. Sandra looked up at Keanu with shaking eyes. I never meant to hurt him. I thought he'd move on. I thought time would make him forget. But now he thinks I owe him my life. Keanu stepped even closer. His voice softened like warm light. You don't owe anyone your life. She inhaled shakily. Keanu, he said if I didn't come back, he'd come find me. Keanu's jaw tightened. He knows where you are now. Her brother nodded. Yes, he followed me. He was outside my house this morning. I saw him leave with your address. Everything inside Keanu snapped into protection. He grabbed Sandra's hand, firm but gentle. You're coming with me. We're not letting him anywhere near you. But before she could speak, a car engine roared at the corner of the street. The three of them turned toward the sound. A dark car slowly approached, stopping just far enough to watch but close enough to intimidate. The driver didn't step out, didn't call out. He just stared at them through the windshield. Sandra's legs almost gave out. Keanu moved in front of her, and the man inside the car opened his door slowly, as if he had been waiting for this moment for years. The man from her past finally stepped out. The street fell so quiet that even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The dark car door opened slowly, like a warning instead of a movement. Sandra felt Keanu's hand tighten protectively around hers, and her brother stepped slightly behind them, knowing he wouldn't be able to stop what was coming. The man who stepped out of the car looked nothing like the person Sandra remembered. His shoulders were tense, his eyes sharp and unfriendly, and there was a strange darkness in his expression, as if he had lost pieces of himself along the way. Keanu positioned himself in front of Sandra without thinking, his body acting before his mind could catch up. He whispered to her, "Stay behind me," but she already was. Fear had pulled her backward. She could barely breathe. The man walked closer, his footsteps slow and heavy. "So," he said in a low voice, "you finally stopped running, Sandra." She felt her heart drop. That voice was the same and completely different at the same time. Once gentle, now cold. Keanu stepped forward slightly. "Who are you?" The man glanced at him with a mocking smile. Someone she promised everything to, someone she abandoned when she no longer needed him. Sandra shook her head, her voice trembling. "Stop, that's not true. I never promised you everything." He laughed quietly. "You made me believe I had a future. You made me hope. Then you disappeared like I was nothing." Her brother whispered, "This isn't the place. Don't do this here." But the man ignored him. Keanu's voice remained calm but firm. "Whatever happened between you two, it doesn't give you the right to follow her or threaten her." The man's eyes narrowed. "And who are you to speak for her?" "Someone who won't let you hurt her," Keanu replied softly. The man scoffed. "You think she cares about you?" Keanu didn't answer. He didn't need to. Sandra's closeness, the fear in her eyes, the softness with which she reached out toward him, all of it said enough. But the moment felt fragile, like something that could shatter with one wrong breath. The man turned to Sandra again. "You left me when my life crashed. I lost my job. I lost my home. I lost everything, and you didn't even pick up the phone." Sandra cried quietly. "I didn't know. Nobody told me. I thought you moved on. I thought you healed." "Healed," he repeated, his voice shaking. "You were the only person I trusted, and you threw me away." Keanu finally raised his voice, though still gentle. "She didn't throw you away. Sometimes people take different paths. Sometimes life pulls people apart. That doesn't mean she owes you every day of her life." The man took one more slow step toward them. Keanu mirrored it, blocking him completely. The tension between their bodies felt sharp enough to cut the air. Then something unexpected happened. The man's expression cracked, not with anger, not with hate, but with a deep brokenness. "I didn't come here to fight," he said, his voice suddenly shaking. I came because I don't know who I am without her. She was my anchor. When she left, I fell apart. Sandra's tears ran freely now. I'm sorry, she whispered. Truly, but I can't be your anchor. I can care about your healing, but I cannot be the reason you breathe. That isn't love. That's pain holding on to pain. The man's eyes glistened with something between grief and desperation. He looked at Keanu again, almost searching for an enemy to blame. So this is why she won't come back, because of him. Keanu shook his head softly. This isn't about me. This is about her needing her own life, her own peace. Her brother added, and you needing help that she cannot give. The man looked lost, truly lost, like he had been walking in circles inside his own mind for months. But then, as if reality slapped him awake, his face changed again. The softness disappeared. The confusion hardened. He took a step back and whispered something that made Sandra's heart collapse. If I can't have answers, someone else will come looking for them. Keanu's eyes widened. What does that mean? The man didn't answer. He simply turned and walked back to his car, leaving behind a final chilling sentence. This is far from over, Sandra. The engine roared. The car sped away. Sandra collapsed into Keanu's chest, shaking. And that was the moment Keanu knew. Someone else was involved. Someone worse. Someone she never told him about. The second secret she never planned to reveal. The street remained silent long after the car disappeared, but the silence didn't bring peace. It brought something heavier, something that squeezed the air around them. Sandra was still trembling, her face buried in Keanu's chest, and Keanu held her like he was trying to steady the world itself. Her brother looked down at the ground, breathing hard, as if he already knew this was only the beginning of something darker. Keanu gently cupped Sandra's face and whispered, "Look at me." She lifted her eyes slowly, tears still clinging to her lashes. "You're safe right now," he said softly. "But you have to tell me what he meant. Someone else is involved. Sandra, who?" She swallowed hard, fear tightening her throat. "I tried to stop this from reaching you. I wanted to deal with it alone. I didn't want you pulled into something you have nothing to do with." Keanu shook his head gently. "I'm already in it because you're in it. You don't have to protect me from your pain." Her brother stepped forward, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Sandra, he's right. Keeping this secret won't save anyone anymore. The situation is getting worse." Keanu looked between them, confused but calm. "Tell me everything." Sandra's hands shook so much that Keanu took them in his own. She took a deep breath that felt like it scraped her lungs. "The man from my past isn't the real danger. He's unstable, yes, but someone else has been controlling him. Someone who promised to fix his life if he helped them get to me." Keanu's eyes narrowed with concern. "Why would anyone want to get to you?" Her voice lowered to a whisper. "Because I left something behind when I walked away from that part of my life. Something important, something powerful, something someone else wants." Keanu felt a chill crawl up his spine. "What did you leave behind?" Her brother answered for her. "A document, something she signed years ago, a contract she didn't understand at the time." Keanu's heartbeat grew louder in his ears. "What kind of contract?" Sandra closed her eyes, ashamed. "I was young, desperate, trusting the wrong people. I signed a partnership contract with a man who promised to help me start my career. I thought it was nothing dangerous, just a simple agreement." Keanu listened patiently. "But it wasn't simple," she continued. "The contract gave him control over parts of my life, decisions, appearances, future projects. I didn't see it then. I only understood after it was too late, and when I refused to follow his demands, I cut ties and disappeared." Keanu blinked slowly. "And now he wants you back." "Yes," she whispered. "He wants control again, but I burned the copy he had. He thinks the last remaining copy is with me, but it is." Her brother added, "It's lost, and he knows Sandra is the only one who might still know where it ended up." Keanu exhaled sharply. "So he sent the man from your past to lure you out." Sandra nodded weakly. "The unstable man, he's just a puppet now. The real danger is the man behind him, someone cold, someone powerful, someone who sees people as property." Keanu stepped closer, voice calm but protective. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her tears fell again. "Because I didn't want you to see me as someone weak or broken. Everyone sees you as strong, wise, humble, and I didn't want my past to disappoint you." Keanu's face softened with the deepest kind of emotion. Sandra, nothing about your past could ever make me see you differently. Pain doesn't make you weak. Hiding it doesn't make you strong, but facing it, that takes real courage. She trembled, her heart breaking under the weight of everything she'd hidden for so long. Her brother continued, and there's more. Keanu looked sharply at him. More. The brother nodded. The man behind all this, he's coming to Lowe's Angels today. He already knows Sandra was seen in this neighborhood. Sandra stepped back, fear spreading through her. We have no time, he's going to track me. Keanu grabbed her hand firmly. Then we won't stay here, we'll leave, I'll keep you safe. We'll figure this out together. Her voice cracked. Keanu, you don't understand how dangerous he is. Keanu looked straight into her eyes. I don't need to understand how dangerous he is. I only need to understand how important you are. Her breath broke. And then from across the street, a figure stepped out from behind a tree, watching them silently. Not her past. Not her brother. A third man. The one she feared the most. The moment that changed everything. The figure who stepped out from behind the tree moved with a stillness that felt more dangerous than shouting or threats. He didn't rush. He didn't hide. He simply stood there, hands in his pockets, as if he already owned the ground they stood on. Sandra's breath stopped in her throat. Her brother froze. Keanu instinctively shifted in front of her, creating a barrier with his body. The man wore a calm smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. I wondered how long it would take to find you, he said softly, as if greeting an old friend instead of someone he had hunted for years. Sandra whispered, Keanu, that's him. The man tilted his head slightly. KeanuReeves, he said, amused. I must say your timing is interesting. Keanu didn't respond. He kept his voice calm, low, and controlled. Stop right there. The man stepped forward anyway. It's nice to finally meet the reason she ran so far. Sandra's heart pounded. Please don't do this, she whispered. I told you already, I won't sign anything again, I won't be part of your plans. The man chuckled softly. You misunderstand, Sandra. I don't want your signature anymore. I want closure. I want the contract back, and I want you to stop pretending you're free from what you owe. Keanu took a small step forward, his tone steady but sharp. She doesn't owe you anything. The man's eyes hardened. And you think you can protect her from me? Keanu didn't blink. Yes. The quiet confidence in Keanu's voice made the man pause for the first time. He studied Keanu, almost surprised, almost annoyed. You don't know what she kept from you. You don't know what she signed. I know enough, Keanu replied calmly, and I know she's not alone anymore. The man smirked. You think this is about her past? No, this is about control. It always has been. Sandra stepped forward, her voice trembling but determined. No, it was about control for you, not for me. I was young, scared, and you took advantage of that, but I'm not that person anymore. The man's smile faded. I'm done being silent, Sandra continued. I'm done being afraid of you. I don't have your contract. I don't know where it went. But even if I did, I would never give it back. You don't control me anymore. Her voice shook, but her courage filled the space. She looked at Keanu. He gave her the softest nod, telling her silently that he was right there every step. The man's jaw tightened. Then you leave me no choice. He reached into his coat. Sandra gasped. Her brother panicked. Keanu moved instantly, stepping in front of her, raising his hands defensively. But the man didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out a small, burned folder. Sandra's eyes widened. That's my contract. The man nodded. I found it. It was hidden in a warehouse I once owned, and now you understand why I'm here. Not for revenge, not for love, for this. He opened it, flipping through the pages. Except, the pages were blank. Completely blank. Sandra blinked. What happened to it? The man stared at her with a strange frustration. Time happened. Fire happened. Life happened. Everything I built around controlling you burned away, and now all that's left is ash. Keanu exhaled slowly. So you came all this way to chase something that doesn't even exist anymore. The man closed the folder with a shaky hand. For the first time, his voice cracked. I didn't know how to let go. Sandra took a careful step forward. She no longer looked scared. She looked sad. You don't need me to let go. You need yourself. The man lowered his gaze, defeated in a way that looked deeper than anger. Her brother added softly, go home. Find real help, start over. For a long moment, the man didn't speak. Then he slowly nodded, turned, and walked away without another word. As he disappeared down the street, Sandra felt her knees weaken. She collapsed into Keanu's arms, shaking with relief and exhaustion. Keanu held her tightly. "It's over," he whispered. "He can't hurt you anymore." She cried into his shoulder, her breath warm and broken. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what would have happened if you weren't here." Keanu touched her cheek gently. "You were brave. You faced everything you spent years running from." "I didn't do it alone." He smiled softly. "You never have to be alone again." The tension that had been choking the day finally loosened. Her brother let out a long, shaky breath, relieved for the first time in years. The quiet street slowly became just a street again, not a battlefield. Keanu and Sandra walked back toward the church steps, the sunlight touching their faces through the clouds. She looked at him with soft, trembling eyes. And Keanu looked at her the same way he did when she first sat beside him in church. A look that said everything. A look that promised peace after pain. A look that felt like the beginning of something new.